Laurie, tell us about your background and role with Pacific Gas and Electric.
I joined PG&E 6.5 years ago and have served as the Senior Vice President and Chief Customer Officer. And prior to that, I was in the telecommunications industry and I worked at AT&T and Comcast. I like to say I've had, 4 amazing careers because before I was in telecom, I worked in the airline industry. So I've somehow been drawn to industries that have few issues, that our brands customers love. But I've really spent the majority of my career serving customers and really working through crisis, working to build customer brand and loyalty. So I've been drawn to industries, or they've been drawn to me, that are always plagued with intriguing challenges.
What are your key initiatives for the customer experience?
From a business perspective, customers really want us to help them aggregate their data and help them make decisions around how they use energy and the types of technology that are available to them. I feel very fortunate. We serve all of Silicon Valley, and so we've got the innovators right in our backyard.
Speak to your programs and efforts on the local level.
We launched a couple of years ago a model. We have 19 divisions across PG&E, and we launched a local division leader model. So we have electric, gas, power generation employees that are out doing, intensive and extensive work in our communities. In fact, we invest close to $6 billion a year of capital investment in California and in our infrastructure. So as you can imagine, that's really disruptive for local communities, businesses. And oftentimes, we're not always the best at coordinating ourselves. And so we recognized that we needed to have a face in our communities. And although we're headquartered in San Francisco, as I said, we span a diverse service territory that's 70,000 square miles. So you can drive from one end of the service territory to the other, but you're likely to start in daylight and end in darkness. So we launched our division leaders. They're part of my team in customer care. They convene the operating unit. So, if you think about like the incident command structure, they're the IC commander of the community and the hub that they represent. And so they convene all of the lines of business in that local area, the superintendents, the field supervisors, so that we show up as one PG&E and that we're really coordinated. We really focus on showcasing our employees who are doing the actual work so that our customers, again, see who we are in the community and that we are part of the community.
Speak to how the utilities' role is changing in their response to natural disasters.
I don't have a better example than what we've just experienced coming out of the North Bay wildfires last year. We were able to mobilize this team. We had our team, this customer outreach team, living on our base camps with our field employees, following crews so that they could get access. We had our local employees that were in the local facilities where customers were going to replace their driver's license and talk to FEMA. PG&E was there to support them through that process, as well as being in the community to support the community through the rebuild. We have a customer care leader is leading the rebuild of all the subdivisions in the North Bay, and to me that's just an example of a much more integrated company that you don't have to be in one part of the organization that might be responsible for the build, but one of my directors is leading the entire North Bay rebuild, and it's primarily an electric and gas rebuild, so real infrastructure. But the way we showed up during the wildfires, I think was phenomenal. My family lives up there. We're part of that community, and to see how we responded, and then to know that my own local team was there to really help customers rebuild is a powerful example of how you can really localize a big utility that is often seen as a very big business, but in critical times is really there to provide essential services and support communities.
Is there a new normal for utilities and disaster response?
Well, it's interesting. I think as technology has evolved, our grid has become much more resilient. And while we still have outages, customers are more attuned to solid communication, understanding time frames, how they can engage with you, because customers really expect that we will restore at some point. Now our infrastructure investments are to accommodate what we refer to as a new normal. We've got to build a grid that is more climate resilient. I think as we've seen by the weather patterns of the last year, that to us is a great example of climate change when you have these extreme conditions. So we're making investments in our infrastructure now that are very different than, say, we would have made even 5 years ago. And in fact, as we're in the North Bay rebuild, we're building a more resilient system within the fire areas that have been identified in California. On the rebuild side, as well as in the areas of California where it can present a fire risk. We're also having to look at our vegetation management practices very differently because we have dead trees. We've suffered a significant drought in California, so that's another new normal for us. But one of the things we are doing is we're working with the communities to build microgrids, because we believe that if we have to de-energize, microgrids can provide resources for customers. And these aren't grids that we'll own and operate, but they will be in support of the community. So, our investment profile is really changing. We also have to, change the architecture of our infrastructure because there is now storage available for customers and rooftop solar and electric vehicle infrastructure. So the dynamics of how customers are using energy and how communities are using energy is really shifting. And so we're having to accommodate and move to that kind of that new standard so that we can continue to be relevant. I like to, I always refer to the grid as a modern marvel. I think it's, we talk a lot about the Internet of Things. It's really about the grid of things. We connect everyone to what's important in their lives, and staying connected to the grid, we think is a really great opportunity for us.
Speak to the need to be seamless across all channels.
I think the key is having aligned objectives, aligned goals, and ensuring that we've got one playbook. So, the beauty of one playbook and aligned goals is that it gives you different tools to use at different times. I also believe that by segmenting our customers, it gives us the ability to deliver a differentiated service experience to different customers, but again, staying aligned with our one playbook. So, we have terrific alignment. It starts at the top. Our CEO she started her career serving customers and just believes that the customer is at the center of everything we do, which is why, as we've been really working with our employees to run a more efficient company, it's really, the conversation we have is really about the share of wallet that customers are spending with the utility, and how we want to enable customers to not have to think about the utility as a big cost and an impact to the lives that they want to live. So we've been able to drive great alignment and really great synergy. And in fact, my example of the local leadership teams, our gas and electric teams really view them as the commander-in-chief, if you will, of that local division. And yet, we don't have little local call centers, right? We've got centralized call centers, and so we're able to pivot. But the beauty is when something happens locally, we have a process by which we can escalate a lot faster and understand if we're seeing a problem across the system.